When it comes to affordable integrated sports watch, you can't really go past the Tissot PRX and the Christopher Ward 12. Those two are absolutely the top dogs in the affordable Swiss market, and rightfully so. 2 years after their initial release, which one's better in 2025? Let's find out. For this head-to-head battle, the rules of the game are simple. There will be a total of 10 categories, and both watches will go head-to-head for each category to win points. For each of the 10 categories, there are a total of 2 points up for grabs. One for being the objective winner, and the other being the subjective winner. Objective means winning the category based on facts, and my personal feelings cannot affect it. Subjective, on the other hand, is essentially my preference and inherently personal. This means there will be a total of 20 points up for grabs. The final rule is that there is no splitting of points. Each category must have a winner, and there cannot be a draw. The watch with the most points at the end wins. Simple enough. Let's get to it. On Tissot's website, the automatic PRX 35 goes for $795 which translated to Australian dollars where I live is the equivalent of $1,220. In comparison, on Christopher Ward's website, the 12 in 36 goes for $1,405, almost 50% more than the PRX. In Australian dollars, that translates to $1,925, which is very much closer to $2,000. Objectively, the PRX takes the point on pricing as it's almost half the price of the Christopher Ward, $795 compared to $1,405. Subjectively, I have to give the point to the PRX as well. The reasoning being you're almost guaranteed a 20% discount if you walk into any Tissot authorized dealers, and I'm talking at least 20%, which means for a brand new PRX, you're looking at closer to $600 to $650, making it significantly cheaper than the 12, which does not go on sale. And so this is an easy win for the PRX, taking home both the objective and subjective points. The second category is brand heritage, which of course there is an obvious winner. Christopher Ward was founded in 2004 by 3 friends, Peter Ellis, Mike France, and Chris Ward. And so far, they've done a fantastic job at making their mark in the watch industry. If you're a watch enthusiast, regardless whether it's been years or even months, there's no doubt you would have heard of Christopher Ward. They are quite popular nowadays. If you haven't, watch my previous video. Tissot, on the other hand, is a brand that non-watch enthusiasts would know as they've been around for at least 172 years. Founded in 1853 in Loch, Switzerland, I don't really even have to get into all the details of Tissot's heritage for it to win this comparison. The only fact required is that when Tissot came out with the PRX for the first time in 2021, the whole world went crazy for it, and that itself rekindled the hype and love for integrated sports watches. The 12 is a direct answer to the Tissot PRX, alongside so many integrated sports watches in the affordable market. Going into brand heritage, there wasn't going to be any doubts. Christopher Ward stood no chance, and so the PRX takes home again both points, objective and subjective. With 4 points in the bag, Tissot has gotten off to a good start. Christopher Ward needs to catch up ASAP. The third category is case, which I'm including both design as well as finishing. The finishing on the Tissot PRX is exactly what you expect from an entry-level Swatch Group brand. There is a decent level of brushed finishing all around with chamfered edges where the lugs meet the front side of the case. The bezel is polished, which means it will be more prone to scratches. The crown is signed with the Tissot T, however it isn't screwed down, but still offers 100 meters of water resistance. The exhibition case back is a nice touch, showcasing the ever so controversial Powermatic 80 movement, which we will get into later. Overall, for the price, I don't exactly have any complaints, but I'm also not blown away either. It's just kind of good. It's what I'd expect. The Christopher Ward, on the other hand, is no doubt a step up in quality from the PRX. It's difficult to explain in words, but on hand, the difference is quite obvious. The case on the 12 feels a lot more substantial than the PRX, and I don't mean heavier, but rather what I consider a luxury heft. Compared to the PRX, the case on the 12 is by far more solid, both look and feel more premium. And as for the case design, the multifaceted bezel, seamless crown guards, and the overall K-shape of the 12, in my opinion, beats the PRX. Side by side, the Tissot looks rather boring and underfinished compared to the 12. And so for case design and finishing, the 12 gets both the objective and subjective points, which takes the scores to 4-2 with the PRX still ahead. The fourth category is the dial. And just like the case is made up of both design and finishing. And similarly, my sentiments from the case follows through. Now, I must make it clear it isn't that the dial on the PRX is poorly finished or that the design is ugly, but when you put it side by side with the 12, the difference in quality reveals itself almost instantaneously. Taking a look at the dial pattern, the waffle dial looks rather flat and one-dimensional compared to the 12's pattern. There's so much more depth on the 12's dial that makes it more of an eye candy compared to the PRX. I'm also not a fan of how the minute track on the PRX is directly printed on the dial itself without any separation from the waffle pattern. The 12, on the other hand, has a separate chapter ring which allows their dial to have its own spotlight. And I do prefer the indices and the handset on the Christopher Ward for a couple of reasons. Aesthetically, they're bolder, more faceted, and matches the idea of an integrated sports watch. And functionally, they're a lot more legible compared to the indices on the PRX. Overall, Christopher Ward easily takes home the 2 points here, which takes the scores to 4-4, all tied up. The fifth category is the bracelet, and this is where Christopher Ward has the Tissot beat, as the difference in construction and on-wrist presence is rather noticeable, with the 12 providing a more refined and premium feel. The bracelet on the PRX is well made for the price. Everything is solid, and it even comes with quick release and links. That being said, it is less substantial compared to the 12. The individual links on the PRX are solid, but when put together is more rattly and flexes easier compared to the Christopher Ward. The bracelet is also held together by push pins as opposed to screws, which makes it a little trickier to resize the length. On the other hand, the 12 features a bracelet that feels like it truly belongs in the affordable Swiss luxury column. And I would use the terms sleek and slender to describe the bracelet on the 12, all the while having that premium heft to it. This category is a bit of a no-brainer. The 12's bracelet is objectively and subjectively better than the PRX. And so with the fifth category done and dusted, the 12 takes the lead 6-4. The next category is movement, a topic that often invites more debate than it probably should. The PRX is powered by the Powermatic 80, an automatic movement with an 80-hour power reserve, and while the 12 uses a Sellita SW200, which offers 38 hours. That difference alone is worth noting. Over double the power reserve means that the PRX can sit for 3 days and still be ticking, which is extremely practical. Now, the Powermatic 80 does get its fair share of criticisms online, particularly around the use of plastic components. While it is true that some parts are made from synthetic material, it is important to understand that the movement is still fully serviceable, provided that the watchmaker can order the specific replacement components from Swatch Group. And in most cases, if something were to go wrong, Tissot is more likely to replace the entire movement rather than trying to repair one individual part. And so yes, there is controversy, but I'd argue it's mostly noise. Objectively, this is a reliable movement with long autonomy and solid day-to-day accuracy. Subjectively, having worn both watches, the PRX has consistently run more accurate for me, and for the convenience of not worrying about winding it after 2 or 3 days off the wrist, makes it one of those features you don't fully appreciate until you've lived with it. And I'll be honest, right? I'm not a movement person. I'm a design, I'm a comfort person. And so if you are a movement person, you're really into your automatic movements and how they're constructed, this could potentially be an issue for you. But for me, it's fine. And so all things considered, movement, specs, real-life performance, and wearability, both points go to the PRX. And that takes the scores to 6-6, all tied up. Next up is warranty. A category that doesn't get as much attention as design or movement, but definitely matters in the long run. Tissot, like any other watch brands under the Swatch Group umbrella, offers a standard 2-year international warranty. It's accessible through their network of authorized dealers and service centers, which makes the process relatively straightforward and localized. You could take your watch and relevant paperwork and get it processed all in person. Christopher Ward, on the other hand, is well known for offering a 60-month, 5-year movement warranty. At this price point, that level of commitment is almost unheard of. Objectively speaking, it is hard to argue against the extra 36 months of coverage. It shows a level of confidence in the movement and their watches, and that level of after-sale support places it ahead of the Tissot on paper. Subjectively, I'm also giving the point to Christopher Ward. And I get it, it's a lot more complex when you have to first email Christopher Ward, get them to reply to you, acknowledge that your warranty could potentially be covered, mail the watch to them, ensure that the warranty is actually covered. They then fix the watch, send it back to you via mail. Hopefully it doesn't get lost in transition. You receive it and you have your watch. So there's definitely more moving parts compared to just walking into your Tissot AD or service center. But for the extended peace of mind, 3 additional years, it's a risk I'm willing to gamble on. So both points go to the Christopher Ward here, and that brings the score to 6-8 in favor of Christopher Ward. This next category is all about value for money. To recap, the Tissot PRX retails for $795, but it's widely available for at least a 20% discount, which brings it closer to $600. At that price point, you're getting a Swiss-made watch with an integrated design, 80 hours of power reserve, strong finishing, and a recognizable brand with heritage. Objectively speaking, that is an incredible deal. On the other hand, the Christopher Ward 12 comes in at around $1,400, and they rarely ever run discounts. You might catch a small markdown during a clearance, but in most cases, those are returned or discontinued pieces, so it's not quite the same. And so from an objective value for money point of view, it's really hard to argue against the Tissot PRX, especially when you can get a good discount on it, bringing it closer to around $600. Subjectively though, the picture shifts. The 12 is a clear step up in terms of dial depth, case finishing, bracelet integration, and overall execution. For me, those upgrades are worth paying for the premium. It delivers a more refined experience, and if you're in a position where the extra spend is justifiable, it just feels like money well spent. So while it is not the better deal on paper, on hand, however, I am happy to spend more money on the 12. And so for this category, the objective point goes to the Tissot, and the subjective point goes to the Christopher Ward. That brings the score to 7-9, with Christopher Ward still in the lead. The next category is wearing experience, and I'll be upfront, there's no real objective way to measure this category, but I'll try. The Tissot PRX has a 35mm case, 10.9mm in thickness, and a 39mm lug-to-lug. Meanwhile, the Christopher Ward is 36mm across, 8.95mm in thickness, and a 40.8mm lug-to-lug. The difference in case diameter and lug-to-lug length is almost negligible. However, the 2mm thickness difference does make a noticeable impact on how they feel on wrist. The PRX tends to sit higher and feels chunkier, whereas the 12's thinner profile makes it more discreet and blends into the wrist seamlessly. Subjectively, the Christopher Ward wins here hands down. The wearing experience is simply superior. On wrist, the 12 has that luxury heft that makes it feel solid, substantial, and quality built. The PRX, on the other hand, feels a little lighter and honestly sometimes a little flimsy in comparison. The bracelet on the 12 is another standout feature. It is a level above the PRX, which directly impacts the overall wearing experience. The PRX bracelet is still decent, but it just doesn't match the refinement of the 12. So all in all, both points go to Christopher Ward in this category, bringing the score to 7-11 in favor of Christopher Ward. And for the final category, we have accessibility. And this one's pretty straightforward. Tissot is everywhere, whether it's their own boutiques, authorized dealers, department stores, or even airport shops. Tissot has a presence that's tough to match. If you want to check out the PRX, you can walk into pretty much any major city around the world, try on the 35mm or 40mm model, pick from a variety of different colors, and experience both the automatic and quartz versions. You can even ask for a discount and leave the store with your purchase on wrist. That level of accessibility is something Christopher Ward simply cannot compete with. Christopher Ward watches are only available throughout their website, which means if you want to try one on before committing, you're out of luck. There's no store to walk into, no way to feel the weight, test the fit, or see if the color actually fits you in person. Yes, they do offer a 60-day return policy, but that's not exactly the same as the instant gratification of trying the Tissot in a store. And so when it comes to accessibility, Tissot takes both points. The total tally sees the PRX take home 4 objective points and 5 subjective points, whereas the 12 took 6 objective points and 5 subjective points. Adding both subjective and objective points, the Tissot ends up with 9 points and the Christopher Ward 12 a total of 11 points, making it the winner by 2 points. Now I must fully admit I am quite surprised by the results. Before doing this video, I really thought the 12 would win by a landslide, which you know it does in areas concerning the fit and finishing, but of course Tissot being the swatch group giant that it is, it's no slouch either when other aspects are taken into account. That being said, I personally would go for the 12 any day of the week, even accounting for the higher price tag. The design simply speaks to me more, and it's truly an outstanding integrated sports watch for the price. Don't get me wrong though, the Tissot PRX is nice, and for the price is awesome value for money. But I'm not a big fan of the design and the overall build quality. And so there you have it, the 12 versus the PRX in 2025. Both still extremely capable integrated sports style watches. Both you can't really go wrong with. One's a little more pricey, but you're getting the quality with the 12. Whereas the PRX is really good value for money, especially when you can get authorized dealer discounts. I'll catch you all on the next one.